Okay, so let's just focus on Saturn in the 7th house dealing with my life in particular. Now, for me, the way Saturn has worked in my 7th house is that, again, it does enable me to be very independent. I am not needy when it comes to relationships. Even though I like to be in relationships, I love dealing with people. However, time and time again, when I have entered into a relationship with someone, I have ended up having to take on a lot of the responsibility or shoulder the most responsibility, especially if I cohabitate with that individual. So oftentimes I've gotten into relationships where the man wasn't working, or they were working at first and then they lost their job, and I had to pick up the slack and basically provide for the financial needs of that relationship. And as you can see, Leo is on my 8th house cusp, and Saturn is in the sign of Leo. So Leo being the sign of romance can show that oftentimes I feel like I have to pick up a lot of the financial responsibility for a person that I am in a relationship with. Now, it can also go both ways. I have been in a couple of situations where the person has taken care of me financially. Not totally, but they have helped me in one way or the other in a relationship. But for the most part, it is me who's the one who is being the most responsible. I tend to take a parental approach in some of these relationships because the guy is either arrested in terms of his development, or they are helpless in some type of way. So a lot of times I become their rock or even their stepping stone for them to get to some better place or situation. So Saturn is the planet of responsibility. It's also the planet of the father. So oftentimes I do take a fatherly role, even though I'm a female, in my relationships with the men that I pick. So that shows you some of my flaws already. In the past, I used to pick men that were arrested in terms of their development, that maybe were immature and they needed guidance, or maybe they had a weak father figure. As you can see, my Saturn is retrograde, which deals with me myself having a father that I either saw lacking in power, consistency, or he was weak in some way. So that's for another discussion. But with Saturn retrograde in my 7th house, I am liable to attract men who had the same situation with their father coming up, where their father was either weak or some incapacitated in some way, or maybe they were totally unavailable to them. And then in the process, they look for a father figure, not consciously but subconsciously, and then they find it in someone like me, who is naturally independent, who works hard, and who wants to help people and help shoulder a lot of the financial burden that people face.